Welcome to Unfuck Your Brain. I'm your host, Cara Loewentheil, Master Certified Coach and founder of the School of New Feminist Thought. I'm here to help you turn down your anxiety, turn up your confidence, and create a life on your own terms, one that you're truly excited to live. Let's go. Vivian, my friend, hi. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you.
So good to see you. I feel like I sound like a Valley girl because I was just in LA for a few days and I'm like, so good to see you. I don't know if you may remember from the last time we were on this show, I asked people to brag about themselves because I think women should brag about themselves more. And I know you agree. So tell us who you are and what you're doing right now.
Okay, for everybody listening, my name is Vivian Tu. You probably know me online as Your Rich BFF. I'm a former Wall Street trader. I am now a two-time New York Times bestselling author.
Two-time, number 4, not just on the list, number 4 on the list, which is really number 1 for those in the know based on, there are books that just park on the top of that list for like years. I don't even know what's happening. So for those in the know, she's really a number 1 bestseller.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I have a podcast called Networth and Chill. I teach the next generation about personal finance, everything from budgeting, saving, investing, to more of the nuanced conversations of how do you handle money in relationships? How do you set up financially literate children? And some of the things that I'm incredibly proud of are the fact that I have helped millions of people start to invest, millions of people pay off their debt. I've made the Forbes 30 under 30 list, the list to prison pipeline. Just kidding.
I was going to say, but you're not going to prison.
I'm
this
not
is
going to
not
prison, as well as the Time 100 creators list.
Amazing. I'm so excited about it. So your new book is called Well Endowed, The Secrets to Strategic Spending, Building a Financial Foundation for You and Your Family, and Creating Lasting Generational Wealth, which first of all, the fact that you fit that whole title on a cover is amazing. But I really love this because it feels like, your first book was more like, here are the basics, here's what you need to know to like just get some financial empowerment and get yourself like somewhat together. But I feel like this book is really going into the stuff that like so many people don't know about if they don't have access to like high-end tax planners or like wealth managers or whatever. And so I'm so excited about the book. So your first chapter, of course, which I was also obsessed with because it's called De-Influencing Your Brain. And so we're speaking our language here. And so you talk about the idea of maximizing value for money and how as a society we tend to, quote, value the wrong shit. Can you share a little bit about what you mean by that? Like, how are we valuing the wrong thing? How did we get here? And how can we maximize value for money in different ways?
Yeah, 100%. So I feel like I get a lot of DMs that say something along the lines of, "Hi, Vivian, my name is XYZ. I'm in my 30s, 40s, 50s. I've done everything right. I did what I was supposed to do. I got the good job. I made the good money. I didn't get what I bargained from life. This isn't what I wanted." They look in their closet and they see tens of thousands of dollars worth of stuff. Maybe they see a fancy car in the driveway, but they can't make their kids' pee-wee baseball game. They can't make visiting the hospital to see a sick parent. They don't have the time to even just enjoy themselves, do a face mask, and read a book. And I kind of was running into that in my own personal life. What ended up happening, that was kind of my aha moment, was I paid for an all expenses covered vacation for my parents, sent them to Asia. I'm talking lay flat seats, really nice hotels, fine dining, everything. And on the way back, our hometown is at a regional airport. So I was like, you know what, why don't you guys fly into New York? You come visit me first and then we'll get you home. They were like, perfect. They came to New York and they were with us for a couple days. And on one of the days, it was a weekday, I took my parents out to dim sum. We had a lovely breakfast. But then we got back and immediately I ripped open my laptop and started answering emails. And my mom made a comment about how she was like, "Ugh, we're so poor. Our daughter doesn't even have time for us." And it kind of broke my heart because I don't think in any respect of my life I would consider myself poor. I feel very lucky, very privileged now. But to hear her say that, like, the one thing she really wanted from her daughter was just a little quality time and I couldn't give that to her, wasn't a good feeling. And I think it was a real reset of like, what is this all for? Money is a means to an end. We are not just trying to get the biggest possible number. It's not a video game. I want money for a certain number of reasons. I want to make sure that it can give me the best life possible. And that's not what I was getting at the time. And so I had to really reframe my own mindset before I could even write this book.
I mean, I think we can see all around us right now, like what happens when people do treat it as a video game. And it's just about like I have to get the most possible, and it doesn't matter, like, if I destroy the environment or if people end up in prison or if that is that unchecked kind of capitalism. And I think one of the things I love about your work is that people think of it as this very either or. It's like either you're super capitalist and therefore you think, yes, we should have billionaires and they should ruin the planet, or you are a Marxist. There's a place in between where we can advocate for women to be financially empowered and to make the money they want and to live the life they want. And that doesn't have to tip into like unrestrained, disastrous, unhinged capitalism.
I think that like people also forget that there's a huge difference between being a millionaire and a billionaire. Somebody was like, this girl's so out of touch. She has multiple millions of dollars. And I was like, you do recognize that like I am closer to being homeless than I am to being a billionaire. And so I think it's just this misdirected rage of how do we actually hurt billionaire pockets versus just like the lawyer who worked their entire life to the bone, 80 hours a week to build a happy life for their family. They're different.
Yeah, I think that having a more accurate understanding of like who we are should be in solidarity with and who are the enemy in that sense, and like the difference between the person in your town who owns 2 restaurants on Main Street is not the same as like Elon Musk.
The surgeon who had to train for 10 years to be able to do that open heart surgery, they deserve to get paid. And they are not the reason why you are feeling the burn in your wallet.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend everybody go watch the videos online that show they have these visual differences between a million and a billion in terms of like grains of rice or whatever. And you see there's so much room for so many more of us to be making 6 figures, even 7 figures, if we are not allowing billionaires to capture literally hundreds of billions of dollars. So let's talk about kind of why, again, because it's not a video game. So obviously people want to meet their basic needs. I personally, I know you do too, want a society in which everyone can meet their basic needs and like can afford housing and healthcare and food for their family, which is not what we have right now, which is horrifying. But I think that women start to feel guilty pretty much immediately once they get past that threshold, like having any extra they feel bad about. So can you talk about how you see money as a tool for power and choice, not just like basic security, and why that's so important for women?
Yeah, because the whole point of this, the fact that we are literally on a floating rock in space, the whole point is to thrive. The whole point is to have a great life. It's not just to survive. And yes, it is so, so important for you to be making enough money to meet your basic needs. But heaven forbid you'd like to buy yourself a blueberry muffin and a little matcha and give it a little shake shake. That's not a crime. It's not a crime to want a beautiful pair of boots. It's not a crime to want to be able to buy your kid the thing that they asked for their birthday. I feel like if we thought a lot more about what happens when we put dollars in women's pockets, we'd feel a lot better about our actual spending and how we are related to it. It's so funny. You see all of these male billionaires who have all of this money and they are just doing diabolical, nefarious things. We've literally seen lists, files come out even. And what happened when Mackenzie Scott and Jeff Bezos got divorced? Mackenzie Scott was giving that money away like it was going out of style. She gave that massive endowment to Howard University. She was giving money to cancer research, to scientific discoveries, to all of these amazing causes with no stipulations. She said, I trust you to make this money work. And the same thing happens when women get money, because naturally we are hardwired to think we versus I. And we as women oftentimes, when we do take our dollars and we do go spend it, it gets reinvigorated into our community. We go to the small bake shop that our friend runs. We go and give money to that charitable cause that we believe in, that pet shelter that we're volunteering at on the weekends. I just think that women are often shown as irresponsible financial decision makers. There's literally a movie called Confessions of a Shopaholic. But in fact, we don't see the same type of flack come under for men buying sporting tickets, putting bets on, buying PS5s, and buying drones and hunting gear and fishing rods and golf clubs. It's like the dumbest stuff. But like they don't get that same flack that we do for going and buying a little lip gloss. It is so crazy to me, the narrative that has been pushed around women and money. And I'm just begging people who are listening, if you take anything away, just know this. Nothing bad happens when women get money. And frankly, I think the world would be a much more equal and a much more equitable place if we did.
I think so much from that. Like, first of all, right, the idea that buying Taylor Swift tickets is financially irresponsible, but buying Super Bowl tickets is like a totally fine, good use of money, right? It's not even commented on. We're not even talking about people who buy Super Bowl tickets. No one is writing a story about the cost of Super Bowl tickets. Like, that's just baked in. It's fine. But I think that like one of the places I've sometimes had trouble or I've had to think about this argument of like women do better things with money is, I mean, number one, we know there are studies from the developing world in terms of microloans and how women reinvest them generally into the family, whereas men don't. So I think there is some, I cannot talk today, social science evidence for it. I sometimes have trouble with arguments that like women are naturally more moral than men because I don't think that's true. But I think that the way we're socialized impacts this. And I think part of the problem we have is that I don't know that women are any more moral than men, but I do think that people with more progressive politics see money as bad. And then what happens is like the people who would, because of their values or political commitments, put money back into the causes they care about are less willing to go after money, and especially if they're women or socialized as women, because they have this sort of like money is bad and it's all being collapsed, right? So I think we end up with this like self-replicating problem where the people who would really of either gender who would be more inclined to put the money back into their communities also have the programming that like the money is bad. I think it's really complicated. I know you also write about how women treat money in their personal relationships. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about how you see women overcompromising financially in relationships and like what does it look like if you trust yourself and are not just like people pleasing in your financial life.
Yeah, I think women in particular are very afraid of being called the G word, gold digger, greedy gold digger. It's crazy. And I think that like we have seen a lot in pop culture that has pointed to this evil woman archetype that swoops in on just a complete victim, unsuspecting, kind, loving man who happens to also be incredibly rich.
And he was
Like
just at the strip club for love,
he
Vivian.
was at the strip club for a
He
hug.
wasn't making a financial transaction. He was looking
Yeah.
for love.
Yeah. It's crazy, it's crazy. I mean, I just think that, like, we have been told as women that wanting money is a bad thing, and because of that, we have done a couple things that are incredibly disadvantageous to our entire gender. One, it's most often we give up financial autonomy. Our money is managed by our fathers, then our husbands, and then our sons, and at no point do you ever really run your own finances, and I think that's very dangerous because the truth of the matter is most women die alone. We outlive our partners. So even if your husband lives to be 100, you'll probably live to be a little bit older than that, right? Like on average, we see that women outlive their partners. And so if you don't understand your money well, at a certain point, you will be in charge of managing it on your own and no one will be there to help you. And I think that's scary. Two, I think it also means that we overcompensate trying to look like we are optimizing for fairness when in fact a 50-50 equal outcome is not usually fair because women typically do a lot of unpaid labor in the home that is not ever assumed that a man would do. But then when it's time to go pay rent, right now, most households cannot make the math without two incomes coming into the home. So you're telling me I'm going to go home, I'm going to do the dishes, I'm going to cook food, I'm going to do the laundry, I'm going to vacuum, I'm going to scrub the toilets, I'm going to do all that. We're both working and we're still going to go 50-50 on the apartment? Babe, that's not your partner. That's a roommate. That is a roommate and a bad one at that, in fact. You need to get a chore wheel. I think that, like, if we really acknowledge that money is a tool, money is a resource that is finite in this world, that, like, we need money to have a good life, but it doesn't have to be the only thing, we'd be a lot better off in our relationships.
Believe it or not, I still have a human brain and I have to coach myself all the time. And so to let you in behind the scenes, behind the curtain, behind the brain, give you a peek at how I coach myself on all the shit that comes up day to day, I am doing a 30 days of self-coaching series over on Instagram. I am coaching myself through things like how to ask a mom to put headphones on her kid on the airplane, what to do when someone shows up at your door and asks for something that you don't want to give them, how I coached myself through going downstairs and discovering that the dining room looked like a gang of ravaging raccoons had run through it. All the little daily shit that maybe isn't content for a whole podcast episode, but nevertheless is how coaching myself helps me show up better every single day as a boss, as a creative, as a visionary, as a wife, as a stepmother, as a friend, in all the different roles and areas of my life, and how it helps me show up better for myself. So it's an amazing series. You're not going to want to miss it. All you need to do is just go follow me on Instagram. I'm at Cara Loewentheil. It's my name. There's only one of me. It's easy to find me. Go follow me on Instagram at Cara Loewentheil, and you will be able to watch my 30 days of self-coaching series. And if this is a hit and is something that you guys are interested in, then I will keep doing it past the 30 days. Go check it out at Cara Loewentheil on Instagram. So I want to hear your take on this thing that I read on social media recently. It was a couple of years old post, I think, that had been brought back, but I loved it. So it was a post that I think somebody had originally posted on Reddit. So it's a man posting. He's with his partner, who's a woman. They are not married. They keep their finances separate, and they want to have a baby. And she basically put together a detailed breakdown and proposal of how she wanted him to pay her for the income that she was going to lose by going on maternity leave. Out of like the comments, you can imagine were just bananas. But like, what is your take on that? Do you think more women should be doing that?
I think that that should already be done in your prenup, in your postnup, in whatever, when you actually decide to join your life together. Because what we end up seeing is that more often than not, it's the woman who has to take a step back, who becomes the household CEO for a temporary period of time, just given how expensive the cost of childcare is right now. And it's not just the income that she loses during those maybe 3 to 5 years that she takes off. It's actually the fact that each year she would have also gotten a raise. Each year she would have been able to invest some of those dollars that she had made. She's not getting those gains. She's not getting those raises. So then when she gets back into the workforce 5 years later, she's benching to a lower number, and she's missed out on all of the investment returns and the compounding growth that that money could have had for her. So 1000%, I think you should write down, if one of us happens to take a step back from our career and become the household CEO, like, this is how we are going to make sure that that person has a spousal salary, that person has money of their own, that person is still financially taken care of. We have to ensure that a certain dollar percentage value of, every dollar that goes into the working outside of the home partner's Roth IRA goes into a spousal IRA. There has to be things that are in place to protect the people doing the unpaid labor. And I just want to ask, don't you think it's so funny, and it's not about to be funny actually, that anytime women do something, it's unpaid, and when men do it, it's paid? So I'll give you an example. When women cook at home, it's like seen as like low class, low lift labor. It's actually incredibly strenuous. I hate cooking. But then all of a sudden you have some guy with a goatee and a full arm sleeve tattoo, and he's the chef at a restaurant, and everybody's clapping, James Beard Award winner. Like, it's just crazy. It's the same shit.
Right. Professions that women often do, they're either uncompensated, or if they are compensated, women make up the lower tiers of it, right? So it's like in education, it's like women are the nursery school teachers, and then there's more, right, men are the college professors.
Tenured professors. Yeah.
Yeah. But I love part of what you were talking about, you make explicit in the book, which is like treating especially your romantic cohabitating partnership as a business, right? I love even that like CEO of the household. My husband is retired, and in our prenup, he gets a certain percentage of my business profit every year. That's like his, that he puts in his own account, because obviously I would not be as able to run my business if I didn't have somebody at home who was doing all the childcare and traveling around with me, helping me and supporting me, and right, doing whatever I need. I was actually kind of shocked because I am I have been a professional feminist my whole life, and obviously believed in prenups and postnups and all of that. But I read that post and I was like, oh, I don't think it ever occurred to me to tell a woman like, yeah, you should go to your husband and be like, even in the short term, I'm literally giving up this amount of money, and I want you to like transfer it to my bank account, which I was just like, yes, I love that. So I'm curious what you think. Obviously, one of the reasons that there's like a couple of thoughts I feel like that go into the trouble women have in doing this, right? One is that sort of like socialization we get that like women don't understand money. It's math, and women are bad at math, even though like also money is basically addition, multiplication, and subtraction. Like, you can definitely do it. You don't have to understand calculus.
Pull a stereotype, but like, I'm very good at math.
But like, even if you think you're someone who's not good at math, you can still understand your money. I failed, not failed, but I could not get very far in math in school, but I can understand my money. You don't have to be a math genius to understand your money, But we're socialized that like it's money, women are bad at money. I mean, it's math, women are bad at math. Money is a male thing. We don't understand it. Men, the 27-year-old guy named Chad at your bank who talks with a lot of confidence is definitely the expert. I wonder what you think is going on within a relationship where women are afraid to like have those conversations. Like, what do they have to change mindset wise to be able to do that?
I think it's changing the mindset of being afraid to want money, but then it's also changing your partner and not being with a loser.
You're like, so get divorced. That's my advice. If you get-
Like, listen, I'm not saying like immediately, like Adele, like divorce, babes. Like, I'm not doing that. But I do think that like when you choose a partner, it's so important to choose someone that wants financial security and stability for you, independent of them. I think that's the whole point of being a good partner is you want the best for your partner, even if it doesn't necessarily mean that they need to rely on you, that like you need to be needed. There are so many men out there, and this is so funny. I don't know if you've seen this meme. It's like if you have a girlfriend or wife who hates men and you're a man, then just know that you're really, really great. Like it's just like a running joke, right? Like I don't hate men. And I don't think you do either. But like I do think there is something to be said about choosing a man who does more than the bare minimum, choosing someone who wants goodness for you, and choosing someone who is not going to force you to play small so they can feel big. My husband was always our breadwinner, always our breadwinner. And he always took care of us. He was a provider. He provided security. And frankly, even now that I make more money, he is still my safe place. Like I genuinely joke that I'm like, well, nothing bad can happen when we're together. When you're with me, nothing bad can happen to me. And I want that for every single person, to find a partner that you are so confident is going to do right by you, even maybe at their own expense. That's love. And so I just think, don't pick a loser. Don't pick a loser.
Reminds me of those Instagram videos I see that are like, everything I prepped for my husband and kids before I went out of town. Nothing, because I didn't marry a loser. I think one thing I want to pop from what you're saying is because I think that part of the reason that people get fucked up talking about money and relationships, especially in the beginning, is like this idea that you're sort of like, so you don't think our marriage is going to last, right? Or like, you don't trust me to be fair to you or whatever. And so I think we have to just overcome that little like mindset hurdle. And I love what you said about like, I think that this positive way of spinning it is like, we both want to make sure to take care of each other. And, my thinking with my prenup was like, the me I am right now doesn't think I would do XYZ, but I know how brains are. So I know that a person can end up, whatever, feeling betrayed or falling out of love or like wanting something different with their life. And then they can justify and rationalize all sorts of things to themselves. So it doesn't have to be about what you think of the person now. It's more of just like an insurance policy against the unpredictable. What if you get a brain tumor and decide to steal all your partner's money and gamble it away as the woman in the relationship? That could happen, right? So like thinking of it as we're protecting each other, but not shying away from that. Like I have too many clients who get into their marriage and then eventually they want to get divorced. The partner is maybe abusive or maybe just it's not working out, whatever. And then they discover they did not know what was going on with the finances. Like they had let their husband manage it. He was spending the money on all sorts of shit or he was squirreling it away. And it's just for your sake, you have to find the strength to have those conversations because if there's one thing about humans, it's that we never really know what's going on in someone else's mind. And to like, as you say, give all that power up is just a recipe for disaster.
It is. And especially now, I know you've seen this with the rise of, I'm just going to call it sports betting, but everybody else wants to call it a prediction market. As someone who worked in markets, don't offend me. That's gambling. That's betting. That's literally
It's
Vegas with more
crazy what the
steps.
numbers are when you read those
Yeah.
articles about how many people are
A
doing, how many men
billion
especially are
dollars
doing
on a
it.
Super Bowl, $1 billion. You need to protect your money because addiction is not like a personal flaw. It's a disease. And like, imagine you get into a situation and somebody starts literally stealing your money to gamble. I can't do that.
So if you could leave listeners with one tip from your book, what would it be? Other than don't marry a loser, which we've both agreed is very important.
Yes, very important. I think, listen, it's this. Right now, things feel incredibly economically challenging. I'm not going to lie to you. There has been a deep K-shaped economic divergence. The haves have gotten more. The have-nots have gotten less. And I know you feel stressed when you go to the grocery store. The eggs are costing more. The milk is costing more. Everything is worse. But I don't think that's necessarily reason to give up hope. And I also think that don't let the headlines trick you into thinking you're alone. a lot of the headlines right now for financial news are like, US economy doing great, GDP up, whatever. And it's like, yes, if you look at the average, but the average is just adding up every single number in the room and dividing by the number of people. But in fact, if you looked at the median, which is just the middle number in the number line, it takes out the centibillionaires that are skewing the number. And you're probably going to see a very different picture of the country. And then on top of that, like even the most frequently occurring numbers, I would guess would tell a very different story of a much more struggling, much more concerned American citizen. And so I would just say, you're not alone. Things are tough. That is reality. But there is still hope. There is still optimism. And we might just have to get a little creative, but you can do this.
I think that's why your book is so important, is because it's easy when things are harder and it looks like they're hard for everyone to sort of just be like, well, there's just nothing to be done, right? But the truth is, like, there's always something to be done. There's always something to be done. People lived through, like my grandparents lived through the Depression and went on to rebuild the business that had to close. Like, the economy does change. People do come out of it. And this is a great time to get educated, to like get some more information, because if you aren't financially educated, you literally don't know the things that could be done. Like, you know, the idea that you could budget and try to save, but when your expenses seem like that's not possible, then you're like, well, then there's nothing else to do. No, there's always things to do. So everyone should go buy the book. It is out now everywhere. We got to keep her on the bestseller list, even though she's already there. So go get the book wherever books are sold. Thank you for coming on. And I hope you get to rest soon after your book tour is over.
Thank you so much for having me.
Did you know that Take Back Your Brain, my first book, is available on hardcover, ebook, and audiobook? And I read the audiobook myself. So if you love the podcast, you are going to want to make sure that you get a copy of Take Back Your Brain, How a Sexist Society Gets in Your Head and How to Get It Out. It is everything you need to understand your brain and change your brain, start to finish, in one book. It is available wherever books and audiobooks are sold. And if you love it, all I ask is that you please leave us a review on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or Goodreads, wherever you get it from or wherever you share your thoughts about books. Those reviews really help the algorithms boost the book, show it to more people, share it, keep the book circulating longer. And we all know that every woman in the world needs to understand how to change her brain, not so that she can think what I want her to think, but so that she can decide for herself what to think. That's really what all of this work is about. That's what all of us are doing with the podcast. And that is now what the book is here to do as well.